Hello chess friends, welcome back. I have a question to start with. Are you a jealous person? Well, I'm honest with you. I am absolutely a jealous person, and that could be for various reasons. It could be for somebody being more successful in life, being a happier person, just a better chess player, or someone who is just playing a brilliant game and you think, I wish I could have done that. Well, Georgios Souleidis, also known as the Big Greek, is one of these people who I'm completely jealous about. No, just kidding. Georgios is a very good old friend of mine, but I'm jealous in the sense that he has a fantastic YouTube channel with almost 140k followers. He's a good chess player. Okay, I'm also not too bad. But the reason I'm really jealous is because of the following game he played last week. Game played in Dortmund. It was a round robin tournament, 10 players, mix of young upcoming talents, including my student Arthur de Winter, 15 years old, super talent from the Netherlands, but also Georgios Souleidis playing together with a number of grandmasters. And he's playing with the black pieces in this game against 24-year-old grandmaster from India, Karthik Ventakaraman, if I pronounce it correctly. And this game, I will really like to call it the Big Greek Immortal. And maybe that is not correct. Maybe I've been overlooking other beautiful games of Georgios, but definitely I think he will appreciate it if he's watching, because he's of course too busy with his own channel. Anyway, let's have a look. Karthik opens up the game with 1c4. Black goes e5. We have the English opening. And now if black goes knight c6, we have the four knights variation. Very typical. We have seen it in many games, including the World Championship match, Nepo versus Ding. But Georgios plays here the sharpest move out there. It's the move e4, attacking the knight on f3. Knight goes to g5. And for a long time, this was considered to be sort of a blunder, because this pawn on e4 is doomed to fall. But nowadays, it's modern theory. Black has proven himself that there is a way to get quite nice compensation. And you can obtain it by playing the move c6, getting ready to support the pawn on e4 with the move d5, knight g takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, white is a pawn up, but black is going to grab the initiative in the center with the move d5, c takes d, c takes d, and now the knight got to move again. If the knight goes to c3, there is d4, and the knight will have to make an awkward move again. So knight g3 is considered to be the main option, and now, very cool idea. Black plays here the move h5 with the idea to push the pawn to h4 when the knight is trapped. So very standard theory here is to play the move e3 so that after h4 the knight can still go back to e2. It's not a great square. You're blocking the bishop, but it's just for the moment. Black goes knight c6, developing a piece. White goes d4. And now the queen comes into f6. This is a very interesting line, and for ChessBase, I've been recording a 60-minute video on this exact topic. Black is a pawn down, and even the pawn on d5 doesn't look great, but white is struggling with its development. And one of the main ideas of placing the queen on f6 here is to prepare the move queen g6. With the move queen g6, you're keeping an eye on that pawn on g2, making it harder for the bishop to get developed, but also you're preparing ideas like knight b4 followed by knight c2 or knight d3, as the queen does support a knight jump to one of these squares. So very interesting theory. Knight c3 is considered to be the main move to try to get the bishop into play. But after the move played in the game, knight f4, white is attacking the pawn on d5, but you're not going to care about it. We are going to sacrifice a second pawn, and Georgios was pretty much aware of that. He played here the move bishop d6 with the idea to take the knight, give him the chance, but white is going to take here. Knight takes d5, and the queen comes into g6. Now, if you look at this position for the first time, you will think, okay, white is two pawns up, two central pawns, that should be game over. But it's actually totally unclear. And it's because this bishop on f1 doesn't have a great way to get into the game. You have some issues regarding that pawn on g2. And white decides to drop back with a knight to c3. Okay, that's maybe not the move you want to play, but it's difficult to point out a better idea for now. Black goes bishop f5, bringing another piece into the game. So black has already almost completed its development. It's just one move away from castling and connect its rooks. So one of the ideas also could be here to play moves like bishop c2, attacking the queen, trying to disturb white's coordination. So white plays here the move a3, also stopping knight b4 plans. And this is an interesting moment I would like to discuss with you, because the big question here is what to do with your king. Now, castling kingside is, of course, the most natural move. Was played by the Big Greek, very logical move, but in this variation, it's also not too weird to castle in the other direction, because the king is going to be relatively safe. Now, there's no pressure on the c-file. If needed, the king can hide into the corner with a move like king b8. The reason why this move is perhaps even more precise is that you activate a rook by castling queenside, as the rook is excellently placed on the d-file, opposing the queen. Black is looking for ways to open up the center with some very interesting sacrifices. In the game, let's have a look first. Castling kingside was played, and now white decided to play here the move bishop e2, finally getting the bishop into play, but he's sacrificing the pawn on g2. I'm not sure that is the best way of playing. If we take it back, white could have also tried to play the move queen f3 here first, protecting the pawn on g2. And now after rook f e8, pinning the pawn on e3, black is about to take on d4 with a huge threat against the queen, with knight to c2 coming next. But there is bishop e2, and white is consolidating its position. There are plans to castle on the next move as well. I think white is probably even a bit better here if there's no immediate way to break through for black. So now again, let's go back to this position with castling queenside. If white would have done here the same with queen f3, then there is rook h2 e8. And this is a typical attacking scheme for black. In this opening, you have two open files. So you're going to place your rooks there. Knight takes d4 is the big threat. If you go bishop to e2, believing that you control the e-file now, there's not the king standing there in a potential pin, but there is knight takes d4 anyway. This is just an incredible sacrifice, with the point that after e takes d4, you can play here the move bishop to g4, attacking the queen, attacking the bishop. If you take on g4, it's queen takes g4, and the queen cannot be taken because of the rook on e8 pinning the bishop. The queen therefore has to go away, but there are not too many squares available. If you go queen d5, there is bishop takes e2, and now if you do recapture the bishop, there is bishop b4 with a discovered check. You're winning the queen on the next move. So altogether, I believe that in this particular case, it would have been better to castle in the other direction. But this is very difficult to work out for both players, even for a young, ambitious grandmaster. So in the game, after castling, bishop e2 was played. Queen takes g2, bishop f3. That is the idea. You're bringing the bishop there to attack the queen. And where should the queen go? Either to h3 or g6. But I think the Big Greek made the right decision to place the queen on h3. Because with the queen here, you're keeping in touch with the bishop on f3. Which means that the queen on d1 doesn't have that many opportunities to move around. It got to stay in touch with the bishop. Now, the critical moment. Because white has returned one pawn. He's still one pawn up. But still, there are developing issues. What are you going to do with your king? And in the game, Karthik played ambitious move e4. He is attacking the bishop on f5, but by pushing the pawn, you're losing a bit of your grip on the center. But the main idea is to get the bishop out to e3 as well. I should mention though that instead, a better idea here for white would be to drop back with the bishop to e2, with the idea that now the queen is able to move again, but also you're planning to go bishop f1 next, kick the queen out. Now, you don't want to allow the exchange of queens, because if the bishop is on f1, the queen doesn't have any good square to go to. Bishop takes h2 is a bad move. You cannot take the pawn because of bishop f1, and the rook is going to take the bishop next. So the only thing you can do here as black is go back to g2, and that's a very unusual way to repeat the moves, but quite an instructive idea, very typical for this opening variation. So anyway, it was not played. E4 on the board. And now Souleidis played here the move rook f e8. Very logical move to pin the pawn on e4. Bishop to e3. Looks as if white is about to stabilize the situation in the center, getting ready to move the queen, keep the bishop defended, and try to castle queenside next. If that is going to happen, maybe black's strategy has backfired. But here, look what's going to happen. Rook a8. The Big Greek is on fire. Fantastic move. It's a piece sacrifice, as the bishop can be taken now, and that was played in the game. E takes f5. White is a piece up. Can you see what the Big Greek had in mind here? It's 1, 2, 3. Black to play. Da 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 da. Knight takes d4. Fantastic. Another piece sacrifice. Opening up the d file as well. Bishop cannot take the knight. And if you take with the queen, which was played in the game, then you can take with your queen on f3, hitting the rook on h1. And now the white pieces are in trouble. For instance, if you play a move like queen d5, trying to force the exchange of queens and indirectly protect the rook on h1, there will follow rook takes e3, as the white queen no longer keeps that bishop defended. After f takes e3, the key idea is bishop to g3. Once again, a discovered check, now from a different angle, as this time the rook is going to take the queen after h takes g3. Rook takes d5, white's position is just collapsing. So instead, after queen takes f3, white moved the rook to g1. Big moment of the game, and I would not be surprised if Karthik up to this point felt that he was doing okay. He's a piece up, and most importantly, with his last move, he is threatening checkmate on g7, thanks to the open file. And of course, the Big Greek had been calculating very precisely and had seen in advance there is this brilliant response, bishop to g3. Fantastic blockading sacrifice with the idea that the g file is closed, but most importantly, also the rook is now attacking the queen. If the queen is going away, you have different ideas of taking on e3. Let's say if you go queen takes a7, I said rook takes e3 is there, but you can even play queen takes f2 with checkmate, as the bishop this time is pinned. Look at the fantastic cooperation between all black's forces. That means that white is in deep trouble, cannot move the queen anywhere because of queen takes f2. H takes g3 was played, but now after rook takes d4, g takes h4. Of course, once again, the bishop cannot take the rook on d4. It's a queen versus two minor pieces. This is game over. Anything is winning here, but the Big Greek finishes off the game in style with the move rook takes e3, f takes e3. He's opening up the center. The king is about to get checkmated very soon with the queen and rook. So white decided to block here with a knight, but now the rook comes in to d2, threatening mate, rook g2, and now the final move of the game is rook takes e2, removing an important defender. White resigned because of rook takes e2, queen to g1, king d2, and then you pick up the rook in the corner. Queen versus rook, with still a lot of pawns on the board. There are absolutely zero drawing chances here. So that is just a very spectacular game. Well done. I wanted to say congratulations, Malaka, one of the very few Greek words I know, and I know it can be an insult, but to friends you can say it, so I'm very happy for you, Georgios. But let's just go back 1 second. As after this move knight takes d4, you don't have to take with your queen. There are various other options as well. For instance, you can play here the move bishop to g4, attacking the queen. White is still a piece up, but queen g2 is an excellent move with still similar ideas. If you take on d4, there is bishop to g3 with a crushing attack, similar motive as we have seen. If the rook is going to move away because the rook is hanging, there is rook takes e3 with check, f takes e3, and now it's knight to c2, check. King cannot go anywhere, white is forced to give up the queen, and that is just game over. So a lot of interesting ideas. Then I want to invite you to go back one more move with me, because I think that taking this bishop was also not the wisest decision. Instead, white may have considered here this move queen to e2. And I would have been very curious to hear from Georgios what he had in mind. Maybe he will cover it on his own channel as well. But queen e2 with the idea to castle queenside makes a lot of sense. But according to the machine, the best move, and actually the only move to fight for an advantage, is another incredible piece sacrifice. Bishop is hanging. But here, with the move bishop c5, you're opening up the d file, attacking the pawn on d4. And the main point, and this is I think difficult to see from afar, is that if you take the bishop, now the pawn on d4 is no longer there. The knight can come in to e5, attacking the bishop together with the queen. That's why this queen was so important on h3. If the bishop goes away, you don't want to give up that bishop. You're still controlling the f3 square, but now the knight comes in to d3. The rook is protecting it. The king cannot go to f1 because of the queen, should go to the d file, and then there is knight to f4 with a discovered check. Once again, you're winning the queen. So altogether, I think this was a very instructive attacking game. Beautiful 27 move miniature by the Big Greek. I hope you really enjoyed it. And once again, Georgios, congratulations, Malaka, on this fantastic performance. I wish you many more beautiful games you can cover on your own channel. And if you do so, I will cover it on my channel as well. So make sure to subscribe to both channels. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.